What is up, and welcome back to another episode working on the Subaru Forester, because, well, that's what we're doing till we head out to the coast and head to Vancouver with the Forester. So we got a few maintenance items to do. As I said, we've been working on a lot of like basic stuff. Today and next episode are going to be the big ones. So today we're going to be playing with these. If you guys know what these are, you already know what we're going to be doing. We're going to be adjusting the valve lash on the Subaru because, well, we have to do some other things. We have to go ahead and replace the gaskets on the valve cover because when I did that compression test, my valve cover was just pouring oil into the spark plugs, so we have to change those. And well, this car I don't think has ever had the valves adjusted, so we're gonna be doing that, and we're gonna be adjusting the valve lash. So lots of fun today. This is a pretty painful one, so if you guys are wanting to watch me suffer, this is definitely the video you're going to want to watch me see. But yeah, so today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be pulling all that off. We're going to be getting as much access as we can to the valve covers, and we're also going to be pulling off as much as we can to prepare for the next video, which the next video we're going to be doing the timing belt on the single overhead cam. So it's a lot easier than a dual overhead cam like the STI, but it's still a little bit of a pain because, well, it's a Subaru, and Subarus are kind of a pain doing that. So yeah, that's what our plan is. And well, as I said, first things first is we're going to be trying to pull off as much as we can around the sides to get as much access. I'm also going to be putting some penetrant oil on the motor mounts because what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to move the motor up a little bit to get to those exhaust valves. Lots of fun, as I said. So what we're going to be doing, I think, is we're going to be removing, obviously, battery, the wipers, the wiper fluid on that side, and then any other wiring I can do on that side. Now on this side, thankfully, our airbox is gone because we have our snorkel, so that makes that easier. But we're going to remove like the intake and stuff, and maybe even move my electrical box just to get a little bit more work, or a little bit more room to work. But that's our plan, so let's go ahead and start removing the stuff. And now that we have the left and right both cleared out as much as I can for now, obviously maybe there's some stuff that will be in my way that I'll have to move here and there, we can go ahead and actually start clearing out the front. Because the next step in doing this, there's two ways you can do this. There's one way that you can go ahead and actually do it just by finding top dead center via just the sound and checking the piston through the spark plug hole. Or you can do what I'm doing. Since we're doing the timing belt, I'm going to pull off the timing cover anyways. That means that we got to pull off the accessories and then eventually the timing belt. So to pull off the accessories, what we're going to do is we're going to pull off our fans. I'm not going to pull off the radiator today because that's something we'll pull out when we're doing the timing belt. We don't need that much room today, so we'll just pull off the fans. We'll pull off the expansion chamber and then clear off the belts for the accessories, and then we should be able to pull that timing cover off and then be able to access everything we need to do to get to the timing to check our valve lash. So let's go ahead and do that. Well, there we go. We have all the belts off up front. The next thing is a harmonic balancer, but I'm going to show you exactly what I'm going to do there because there's a couple techniques for removing this, but the rest of the stuff is pretty simple. And as I said, as we kind of go along the car here, we've done our battery, our tank, and we've also kind of like pulled wires back as far as we can. I also took off the intake here just because it allowed me to get to where we're going to be going in a second. I pulled the spark plug boots and wires kind of out of the way, and then on this side we didn't have anything, so it's really easy on this side. We just moved a few things because we have no airbox. There's a couple different ways you can tackle the harmonic balancer. Probably the easiest way is the starter pump, but if you're like me and remove the battery, and you want to do it the right way, because I've done it that way before and it's a little bit sketchy, what we're going to do is we're actually going to tackle it with the access hole on the bell housing. And you can find it right there, right on your throttle body. There's a little plastic cover you pull up, and then you have access to the flywheel there. What we'll do is we'll jam a screwdriver in there, and then that will allow us to put a breaker bar on the front on the harmonic balancer and spin that off. Then once we have that, it's timing cover time. So we got our screwdriver jammed into the hole in the flywheel. You can spin it around and you'll find there's some round holes in the kind of center. You want to find the square hole that's kind of up at the top. That will allow you to jam a big screwdriver kind of in there. And then just take your breaker bar, put it on there, and then you'll be able to undo it. And with the harmonic balancer off, we just have to undo the timing cover, which probably is the easiest part. You just got some bolts kind of around the perimeter of it. Undo those and the plastic will come off. So you got to take that side off first, and then the rest of it will come off and follow. So let's go get that off like that. So there we go. We have the timing cover off. As I said, there's just lots of little bolts around kind of the whole thing. Once you've got those off, you can pop the timing cover off. And with that done, we can move on to what we're working on today, the valve cover gasket. So this one's going to be fun because you're going to have some leaking oil, so make sure you have some cardboard and paper towel under your car. But just undo the bolts around it and pop off the valve cover. Then we'll take a look at how we're going to adjust these valves because we will have to see. And with those valve covers off, we're almost ready to go ahead and adjust our valve lash. So this side is actually really easy. You just got to get that bottom one kind of off to the side. Make sure you kind of come up from below and it works really well. On the other hand, this side was a little bit rougher. So you can see that I've got it off. It's just a pain. The subframe kind of sticks out a lot more here, so getting that lower back one is very, very hard. And once you get that, you actually can't take it off unless you do the thing I was talking about. Where you will go ahead, grab a jack, take off the engine mounting bolts. Hopefully they come off. Mine actually came off really easy because, as I said, this engine is relatively new. It was worked on before I bought the car, so I think he had it out. So that's really nice. But yeah, you go ahead, take those off, and then you put a piece of wood between your engine oil pan and the jack and lift it up, lifting the whole engine kind of out of the car. This will give you enough room between the subframe and the frame rail and the valve cover gasket to go ahead and kind of slide it out there really sneakily. We're going to have to do that when we're adjusting the exhaust valves. As I said, they're going to be a pain, but actually on this side isn't bad. So we're ready. I'm going to go grab my feeler gauges and just check the specs one more time, and then we'll go ahead and start adjusting the one side. And well, we're ready to go. So I looked at the specs. We want 0.008 on our intake, and we want 0.01 on our exhaust. So those are what we're going to be looking for. I already have just checked the one, and yeah, they're really loose. No wonder it's tapping. So let's go ahead and now go set our valve lash. Okay, and the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find top dead center on cylinder 1. So cylinder 1 is actually our cylinder over there. It's our front passenger side, but we want to go ahead and find it. So thankfully, Subaru's thought about this. So we are looking at finding top dead center on that one. So there's actually an arrow on the spoke right here. I can't get a good enough angle because, well, we're doing this in the car, but there's an arrow that points outwards. You want that pointing at your timing mark right here, pointing at the 12 o'clock position. This will ensure that you're at top dead center on our first cylinder. And to find top dead center, take your bolt from the harmonic balancer, just screw it all the way back in, and then put a 22 back on it, and then you spin it till you found it. You do not have to remove your plugs to do this. I'm not removing them because I just changed them, so they're good to go. So you can actually just keep your plugs in, and you will hear some hissing, and it'll be a little bit of resistance, but you'll be able to find it relatively easy. And well, here we are at cylinder 1. So this is our spark plug tube. I'm going to pull the gasket off because this is what we'll be changing. As you can tell, there's a reason we're changing these seals because, well, they're crunchy. So that's why my oil was leaking. So we'll get that out of the way so we have a little more room. And then these are our 2 intake rockers. We will be adjusting these today. So these are well, we'll be adjusting the exhaust too, but the intakes first. So the intake is 0.8. So we got our 0.08 here, and we're just going to see, like, maybe it is perfectly in spec. And as you can tell, I can move that around no problem. Actually, just for a sanity check, we're going to take our 0.01 and just put it in here. Oh yeah, this is, see how easy that slides in? So our our intake is out of spec. So we're gonna have to be adjusting this one. We can adjust or check the other one in a second, but let's go ahead and adjust this one so I can show you exactly what to do. And well, to adjust it, you're gonna need a 10mm spanner and a flathead screwdriver. So there's a 10mm lock nut on here. So this is what we're gonna be loosening off, obviously, to adjust it. And then we're gonna be adjusting it with our screwdriver here. So let me go ahead and loosen this lock nut first. That took a lot of force, but there we go. As you can see, I can just move it with my hand now. So that gives us a little bit of play. I'll actually loosen it a bit more. And then we're gonna use our screwdriver here to adjust it. So because we have too much space between here, we're gonna want to tighten it up just a little bit. So I'm gonna go a full turn right now, because I'm not sure how picky these are. And we're gonna take our 0.008 and we're gonna go ahead and see if we can get it through. Well, we're looking like we can't get it through. So those are pretty coarse adjustments, so I'm gonna turn it back half or a quarter turn this time and see what we're looking at there. Quarter turn. Take a look at that. Let's put our 0.008 in again. Try to keep it flush with the area that you're sliding it in. So there we go. So 0.008 drags, but it's not super tight. So that's looking pretty good. I'm just gonna see if we can get the 0.01 in. No, we can't. So okay, so we're getting close. I'm gonna go ahead and then we're just gonna go ahead and just tighten this down because I think we're here, but I just want to test. So we're gonna go ahead, put the screwdriver exactly where we wanna hold the position. We wanna take our 10mm, make sure our 10mm is on there. Use the screwdriver to hold a position and tighten it up with our 10mm. And there we go. Theoretically, we should have one done, but I'm gonna check it once again. And then you get to do this, 2 per cylinder on the intake side and 2 per exhaust. The exhaust has a single rocker arm, which is kind of nice, but you'll still have to kind of mess around with it. So this is a 0.09, so it's 1 up from our 0.08, which is spec, and there is no way I'm getting this in. It gets stuck, but then when I take my 0.08 guy, it will go ahead and kind of, once you get it lined up, it kind of slides in there, and there is drag. So if you pull it out, it doesn't kind of like slide out, and you can actually leave it there. So that's what I'm calling in spec. If you guys are more professional than me, as I said, I'm still learning as I go about this, let me know, but I think that is in spec as far as I know, and everything I've looked at, that is perfect. So I've done one of them. Now I get to do this one and then those two, so let's go ahead and do that. And well, under the car, it's the same process. As I said, it's recommended to put a feeler gauge, not a full spec one, just something around there in your other side of the rocker, because then it won't kind of wobble. But I've got one done, so I'm gonna work on this one. Hopefully you guys can see it. It is very tight down here, but laying on the floor, actually, you're able to get a pretty good reach of what you're trying to do. So I'm just gonna try to get this adjusted here. So again, we're gonna loosen off the lock nut here. Got that loosened off. Honestly, I've been adjusting this with my hand just because it's really hard to get a screwdriver in there. I use a screwdriver to hold it at the end, but to get it kind of in spec, I just use my hand. So we're looking at 0.01 again. So let's go ahead, slide this in there. It's gonna probably be way too loose. So let's do that. Again, I'm adjusting it with my hand. A little bit tighter there. And now, let's tighten it up and check it once more. Okay, that feels a lot better. It's definitely more resistance. And I don't think we're getting that 0.11 in there anymore. Nope, that's not going in there. So there we go. We have cylinder 1 all done. All of them were out of spec, so it's not looking hopeful for not having to adjust any of them. I have a feeling this whole car is just out of spec. I don't think they've ever been done on this engine, and this engine's at like 300,000 K. So yeah, it's a little tired. But now we're gonna go ahead and find top dead center on cylinder 2, which is our front drivers now. All we gotta do is rotate the engine 2 times. So using I still have my ratchet in there, is just rotate your engine 2 times, and you're gonna be looking for that arrow that was at the 12 o'clock position down at the 6 o'clock position. That's gonna give us our top dead center on cylinder 2. And then once we do finish that, then we're gonna move on to cylinder 3, which is in the back passenger. That is gonna be the 3 o'clock position. So again, 2 full rotations. Check your arrow, make sure it's at the 3 o'clock position. That's gonna give you top dead center in cylinder 3. And then finally, you're gonna move on to cylinder 4. Cylinder 4 is gonna be the 9 o'clock position on this arrow, and that is going to be, again, 2 full rotations of the engine. So you start to understand the timing once you're doing this, and you start to understand the wonderful firing order Subaru uses on these kind of engines. So essentially, what I'm going to do is do exactly that. So the second and third cylinder aren't going to be hard. Those are going to be the exact same thing. We got lots of room for there. It's the 4th cylinder way back in here where we had to lift the engine out of the motor mounts to get the cover off. I think that's going to be an issue for even just adjusting it. The intake looks pretty easy. It's the exhaust I'm worried about. So I'm going to go ahead and do the cylinder 2 and 3 because easy. And then if I have an issue on cylinder 4, I'll let you know what my solution is. If not, we will go ahead and get all the valve lash set on my Subaru Forester. So let's go ahead and get it done. And there we go. We have set valve lash in all 4 cylinders. And honestly, it wasn't that hard. Even this far one on number 4 wasn't too bad. The back exhaust one had a little bit of a struggle just with like getting the wrench in there, tightening and loosening, adjusting it. You have to like be very careful with the screwdriver to just get it in there so you can tighten it. But honestly, the rest of them went by. It's just a time consuming process, especially for me, first time doing it, that it's very much like adjust it a little. Oh, is this, nope, too much. Bring it back a little. Oh, now we brought it back too much. So it's a little bit of a time consuming process, just learning how to go about managing the feelers and feeling out how your valve lash is set. But we got it all set in the Forester, so that means it's pretty much time to go ahead and put the valve covers back, put in the brand new valve cover gaskets because the old ones were like crusty. Some new spark plug gaskets because these were leaking really bad on mine, as well as, I don't know what to call these. These are like the little pieces that go on the valve cover gaskets where the bolts go. These have a little rubber piece around it and then a metal piece on the other side, and they kind of squish in. So I've got all of those so we can go ahead and change those and reinstall the valve cover gaskets. The one thing is, we are going to have to lift it out of the car again with the kind of oil pan method with a block to get the driver's side on, because the driver's side won't clear unless you do that. So yeah, that is pretty much the process. Now I'll show you guys how to put in these valve cover gaskets. Honestly, not that hard. After all we've done today, I think it's probably the easiest thing. Okay, with the passenger side on, it's time to tackle the driver's side. So first things first is we're gonna go ahead and lift this engine up so that we can get the valve cover gasket in here. And then once you have the engine lifted, you can go ahead and first things first, install your spark plug tube seals. So they just kind of slide over the tube like that. So then once you have that, you can go ahead, take your gasket and install it on your valve cover. It only goes one way, so you can't really mess it up, and it's got little divots here, so just watch the divots and line them up with the divots in the valve cover. And it will kind of stretch, you'll stretch it a little bit so that it kind of makes good contact. So I like to stretch this corner right here. And then it's time to go ahead and install this. First things first, make sure you grab yourself a short bolt, and the short bolt's gonna go here. Your 2 longer bolts go here and here. All the short go here, here, and here. So you're gonna grab this, lifted this side up more, and yeah, there we go. Much easier. So I put another piece of block of wood on this side so that it kind of lifts this side more than everything else. And I'm going to just niggle my way through here. Then I'm going to take one of these new seals, take one of my short bolts, and I'm going to line it up and put it in the center. And I still want to leave that one pretty loose because now I'm going to go ahead and start putting in all the other bolts and tightening them down. So you got to make sure that you kind of got them all lined up relatively well
And then you just rinse and repeat till you have everything tightened down. What I like to do is I tighten down the middle one and then kind of go around, tighten each one down kind of in a pattern, and just make sure that I have them kind of tightened down evenly. You can also see how much the gasket is being squished on each corner. You don't want to tighten these too much. That's why I'm using my tiny drive here, is because these only take like 3.6 foot-pounds. Can't even torque wrench that low. So what I do is I kind of use my 3 fingers and I only use half the wrench, and then once I get half the wrench tight, that's about as tight as I want to do it. You can always tighten it down if you see a leak somewhere, but it's better not to shear one of these bolts off when you're tightening it. So yeah, let's go ahead, tighten all these down and finish it up.
And there we go. We have successfully adjusted our valve lash and installed new valve cover gaskets on the Forester. So that was what I was planning to do today, and we got it done. Honestly, it wasn't as bad as I thought. It was just very tedious, especially with adjusting the valve lash, and while getting the valve cover on wasn't too bad. It's just making sure you don't over torque anything and getting that engine up so you can get the driver's side on. And if you're watching the video and doing this kind of as this job instead of where I'm going to be continuing on and doing the timing belt, you pretty much just do everything we did at the start in reverse. So just watch that part of the video in reverse if you're trying to remember what to do. But it's just pretty much putting everything back on, making sure that you put the motor mounts back on or tighten the motor mounts, and buttoning everything up. But we aren't going to be doing that because, as I said, we are going to be doing the timing belt next. Timing belt, and I got to do a cam seal because one of them is leaking and we don't want it to keep it leaking. So that is going to be it for today's video, but I will see you guys next week when we do the timing belt. So peace out and stay humble.